Hello everyone and welcome to the press conference ahead of the Ledgestone Open. Kicking things off, we have Phill Diloné, the Operations and Partnership Manager for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Phil, how's it going today?
It's going well. How are you?
You're back at Ledgestone, a three-course event. Break us down, what's going on the operations side of the Pro Tour?
Yeah, so there's a lot of moving parts this week. We do have 3 courses with 1 trailer, so lots of driving to each one, making sure each one's competition ready. Heading to each course, for the most part, having to lug the equipment to each place, but at the moment, all assets are on the course, all courses are ready for competition, and we're good. As far as logistics, a little bit more complicated than a normal one, especially like bringing into a course like Las Vegas Challenge with 3 courses, but they're all on 1 property. Simple part about this is it's a little bit more spread out, but we're more than capable of completing it. So with the help of the Ledgestone team, they're pretty solid guys, and they've been doing this for quite some time. So
yeah, dive into that. When you come to a place like Peoria or Ledgestone or an event like this, is it easier than maybe another stop on the tour?
Yeah, I could say it's easy and harder at the same time, but I mean, Nate Heinold and company and Doug Bierkes and company, they all run amazing events. They're logistically, like, between the AM side and the pro sides, I think they do amazing jobs. And when we tack along with them, it's just a combined force of 2 teams with 1 goal, is to have an amazing event. So working alongside of them, it's just hand in hand, it's great. So it's a good challenge. I mean, this tournament's amazing because the courses are kind of been the same for years, besides Northwood Black continuing to evolve. But competition-wise, Sunset's fairly the same. Eureka has not changed, and then Northwood Black used to be gold and continues to evolve. So that's harder, but it's I think it's all easy said and done. It's just a lot of moving parts. So.
Yeah, this is the 11th Elite Series stop, but a number of Silver Series like last week in Columbia and assisting with the majors and everything. Is this a well-oiled machine right now for your side?
Yeah, I think it's well-oiled as best as we can do, right? So there's always going to be complications along the way. Like this weekend we had a little trailer jack break, but other than that, we have an advanced team. So we have a crew of people that kind of leapfrog each event. So the crew that was in Columbia, Missouri, some of them came here, but the trailer is going on to Des Moines. So when we get there, hopefully most of the assets will be set on the course for Iowa. And that'll allow us a lighter lift, so we'll break down here and jump right over. So we're pretty good with that. And then teaming up with the PDGA, you guys are great. Operationally, we just support you guys, but for the most part, we do Disc Golf Network. And I think over the last couple majors, we've been able to show that we work really well together, and we're always getting better as we continually know each other and have better communication. So.
You know, this stuff doesn't just pop up. So kind of break down the week as far as when the operations get here and start making the courses look like they do.
Yeah, so we got here, let's see, what date is it? It's been losing track of time. Wednesday. We got here on Friday. Got the trailer. I got here Thursday night. Got the trailer going on Friday. Got to Northwoods Black, set up some assets, came to Sunset, set Sunset, went back to Northwoods Black, dropped it off, and then have a crew of volunteers that helped us set the finalization of Northwoods on Saturday as much as we could, and then drove over to Eureka, finished most of that, if not all of that, and then after we set most of the courses, we concentrate on like crowd control and spectator rope. So we were able to get that all ready to make sure that not only the pros have a good experience and they're like on the course and the tee pads, but we also have it ready for spectators, and we did some clearing of foliage at Northwoods Black to open up a couple more lines so that people that have paid money can actually enjoy the competition. So
yeah, dive into that a little bit more. You know, obviously the spectator numbers at these events has increased probably tenfold in the past 2 years. What are the challenges, or what are some things you're learning about how to control and make sure everyone has a great experience, spectator-wise? Yeah,
so it's good to look at it like, 1 as a player, but 2 as we are an event and we're selling tickets and an experience to spectators. So 1, we like to make sure it's safe for like competitors. They have right lines, the ropes are in place, and this year ropes are evolving. It's kind of like becoming the bane of our existence. We have a ton of rope, and that allows the players to play and not have people in their way, and the rope allows the spectators to get up close as well as like an intimate experience. So they kind of work hand in hand to help each other, but yeah, they definitely it's hard at times, but it's good to wrap your brain around it and like be able to have the players inside the ropes with the VIPs or following for spectators, and then have spectators outside the ropes to give them a good experience. So
yeah, I'd imagine it's a fine line and kind of a delicate dance and situational.
Yeah.
Hole to hole. So, heading to Des Moines next week, and then Worlds is in less than a month. What do the next month look like for the Disc Golf Pro Tour and disc golf in general?
Yeah, so we just have a couple more moving parts. Advancing Des Moines, that's going to be a big one, another Elite Series under our belt. We have a concert series going as well with that, so that's going to be a bigger show for us. And then transitioning into Worlds, we'll have all of our operations crew on the ground, assisting the PDGA and assisting like everyone in Kansas to make sure we have a very successful event. So they're good. We've already had a crash course with DDO. Took a lot of notes when we were there earlier this year, and we should hopefully be able to build off them and give like the players a good experience and the fans an amazing experience, and hopefully it's an exciting finish. So,
all right, a couple of personal questions. How tell us about your history in disc golf and how you ended up in that seat right now.
Yeah, so I don't know, I started back in like late college, maybe like 2014, 2015, transitioning, traveled a lot for work. I used to work corporate events for quite a lot of companies, and so I would just travel for myself a lot and kept evolving and playing new courses, and eventually last season, Jeff Spring reached out to me as more of like an operational roles. As through COVID happened, I was actually playing for a little bit, but that was more like a year sabbatical while corporate events were shut down, doing like 500 to 25,000 people events. That wasn't the case anymore. I've done like the last 12 Super Bowls with PepsiCo, and transitioning to this, taking more of an operationals role within the disc golf community, allowed me to kind of do my passion for events, my passion for disc golf, and like combine it all into one role. So I get to see these events kind of come full circle now, as well as from the player side or the player mindset, but as well as like from the operational mindset, trying to tweak all this to make sure we have a great event, not only for, like I've said multiple times, but not only for the players, but like as the sport continually grows, we need to make sure it's great for the spectators as well.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, you got to go inside the ropes and actually play at D-Glow. Was it hard to focus on play, or were you looking at the ropes and make sure everything was running as it should be? Yeah,
I got in super late from Europe on Wednesday night. I didn't really get a chance to practice the course. I was pretty tired, but definitely tried to not concentrate on work. But it was my last Elite Series, and I probably won't play another big tournament on the big stage again. So, yeah, that was it.
All right, Phil, appreciate the time. We'll be right back.
Yeah, thanks, Hayden.
All right, we're back with Kristin Tattar. Kristin, good to see you. Welcome back to the United States.
Thank you.
Let's just start with the million-dollar question. How are you feeling?
It feels great to be back. I can't say that I'm like feeling 100% in that way. I still have a problem with the ulnar nerve in my elbow. But I mean, I feel a lot better than I felt like 1 month ago, so that's positive.
What has been the process or recovery or kind of taking it easy with your elbow?
So I took basically 1 month off. I was throwing every other day and just like 30 shots, and they weren't very powerful. And I did a lot of like other sports and strength training. But yeah, once I found out the diagnosis for sure that I have a pinched nerve, then the doctor told me that I can't really like break anything, so it's okay for me to do all the big events and just take like painkillers. So I thought, yes, I want to finish the season, and then maybe I can take some proper time to take off and do the recovery.
Obviously, not competing at those events, I mean, it had to be hard as a competitor, but in the back of your mind, was it conscious that you're taking it easy for the future?
It was very hard at first. A lot of emotional roller coasters. It's like, I'd say, the first big injury for me. I've never really been injured before, so it was definitely a new situation for me to handle. But now, looking back, I'm very proud of myself that I was able to make a decision to like not compete. Otherwise, it would have gone even worse, I guess, and I wouldn't be here today.
You did compete last weekend and took down, I believe, your 5th Estonian championship. What was that like, getting back out on the course and competing, and how have you seen that event grow?
It was actually 6th.
6th, excuse me.
The first one I won when I wasn't the PDGA member, so that's why it's not there. But yeah, I just wanted to go out there and compete and see if I still got it before I came over here. Yeah, I felt great, and I boosted up some confidence. Yeah, it was fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristin. Here's Brian.
Yep.
Hello, Kristin.
Hey.
A couple questions for you. So, you said this is kind of the first big injury that you've experienced. And I know, talking to a lot of players that have dealt with injury, including myself when I was playing, there's always that fear in the back of your mind, throwing too hard might cause the injury to get worse. Have you found yourself having to adjust your play style or even your equipment to kind of accommodate this week?
Yes, but I'm slowly getting over that fear, I feel like. Yeah, I try to use a lot of forehands, because for me the backhand is the one that's hurting, not the forehand. And I've also been playing with a little bit more understable discs, just to keep myself from like throwing too hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you are playing the Northwoods course, and I saw last year, obviously you weren't here. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this revamped track that's been changed around quite a bit?
I think it was quite fun. I really like the placement shots, and you have to be very accurate, and I think it's very challenging, but it's very fun, and I like the combination of two courses, that one is open, one is wooded, so it's going to be an exciting weekend.
Well, I guess the final question I have is, with all this that you've had to overcome to get here, what's it going to take for you to win this week?
It's going to take a lot of accurate shots, avoid going OB, avoid going off the fairway, and sinking all the putts.
So just score very well. I understand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristin. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
And we are joined here by Paige Pierce. Paige, a couple questions for you. First and foremost, before we jump into disc golf this week, I want to talk about the documentary. A lot of exciting stuff happening. Saw the early preview of the movie. Looks incredible. Movie was great. Question that I see flying around the internet quite a bit that I'd love for you to maybe elaborate on. Currently, it's behind a paywall. You're buying tickets for the premiere. Are there plans outside of buying the tickets for the premiere in regards to accessibility for the movie?
Hopefully if you're a Netflix subscriber, but also that is behind a paywall. So most people already are Netflix subscribers. If you guys are watching this, you're a DGN subscriber, so you're probably willing to pay for that, and you know it's cheaper than a Starbucks drink. So it's a small price to pay to show the Netflixes of the world that we as the disc golf community are willing to pay for disc golf content, and that's what Netflix wants to see. So that was our thought in this.
Trying to gather the numbers to
Totally.
pitch to bigger organizations completely makes sense. My next question for you is still about the documentary. When you zoom out and just look at what you had done for that entire year, you had a film crew following you very closely for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
And you went through some crazy up and down moments in that movie. What was one of the big things that you learned about yourself, having such a unique thing happen to you, having someone follow you with a camera nonstop?
Yeah, totally. I mean, honestly, I would say 2021 was like the biggest year of my life. And so to have a huge film crew, it was crazy experience, you know? Like, I mean, if you guys, hopefully not too big of spoilers, hopefully you've already watched the film because it is out now, but yeah, if you see early in the film in Alyssa's first interview, she talks about that. I hadn't even come out to my parents yet, so you know, making a movie talking about that and then bringing that to light, like to millions of people as well as my family, that was a huge thing for me. And then just like kind of figuring out who I am as a person. You know, I brought myself up in the sport, and I didn't have a coach or a parental figure teaching me, hey, you can't act like that, you can't say that, you can't do that. And so, you know, Leroy Jenkins actually was the first one, and Des Redding, two of these two like legends in the sport, both gave me courtesy warnings early in my career. And I think, you know, I've just had certain times like disc golf gets the best of you, and you just you react. And so even watching that back and seeing my growth mentally from last year has been huge. So yeah, it's crazy to watch it again and relive those moments.
Beautiful answer there, Paige. I have a question for you. I have one last question about the course you're playing this week, Northwoods, which has gotten redesigned and redesigned and redesigned, and now we're seeing Northwoods relatively unchanged from last year. Still a few changes, but a lot of players have been talking this week about kind of learning their lesson from how they played the course last year. And I'm wondering what you think. Are the scores coming in going to be that much better than last year because players are changing their game plan?
I'm not really sure. If I'm being 100% honest, which I usually am, I don't know what I'm going to shoot. I don't know what I'm going to throw in a lot of the holes yet. I got one look at the course, and that was last night, and by hole 14 it was pitch black, so I didn't even get a full round in at Northwood. I did notice that a lot of the fairways were widened. I don't know the word I'm looking for there, sorry.
Wider?
Wider, yeah, they're wider. So yeah, like you have a couple feet on each side now extra. So, I mean, my plan worked out pretty well last year, so hopefully my practice will just be tonight, maybe even re-watching film from last year and kind of seeing like, oh yeah, I threw buzz there. But I would assume, you know, we have a couple holes that are shorter basket, shorter tee, and now the fairway's wider, so I would think better scores. Plus, we're all getting better.
Well, good luck, Paige.
Thank you.
Hey, Paige.
Hello.
Hey, circling back to the doc, you know, outside of the numbers and how many people buy it or watch it, what will make it a success for you?
Getting new people to see the film. So, you know, mostly like the people that have heard of disc golf but haven't played it, you know, I want them to pull up their browser or their Netflix and see disc golf documentary and be like, whoa, this must be a big thing now. And so that's what I want. I don't really care if you watch it or if my dad watches it or Paul Macbeth watches it. I want people that are like heard of disc golf, but they don't play it. I want them to see the doc, and that's why I'm asking people to share it more so than even watch it themselves. But I think, you know, the $5.99 once you pay that, or even the $11.99, like, you're going to be like, wow, you know, I did myself a favor in watching this. Not, you know, it's an incredible piece of film, and I'm just so happy with how it came out. And I know once people do watch it, it's going to be huge for disc golf.
Definitely exciting stuff, and thank you for that. Now, jumping back to Ledgestone, what makes this a premier stop of the year?
Well, I mean, all the disc golf around this area is, every course is great. The community always comes out. It's cool to see so many disc golfers at one event. A lot of times we have this many disc golfers, but they are watching and spectating. So it's cool to see them playing, and that way when they tell you, hey, good luck this week, you can kind of say, hey, you too. Like, so that's fun, and just sharing like the Frisbee spirit, and you know, wishing everyone well. I think another thing is just how hard Nate Heinold works. I don't really think that man sleeps or eats. I think he's all disc golf, and it really translates into the events he runs. So yeah, I think just the quality of the event, and yeah, the history of it.
How do you feel about this format? 4 days, 4 rounds, 2 very distinct courses.
I like 4 days, 4 rounds, but I like one course. I mean, I just was sitting here waiting for this press conference. I'm watching ball golf on the TV, and they're learning one course, and they have a notebook. They know exactly what to do on all 18 holes, and when we have less courses to work on, you're going to see better results from the players, and that's what you want as a fan of watching the game, right? You want to see how they attacked the course on Thursday compared to Sunday, and what improvements they made or what changes they made. And so you don't really get that as much on a 2-course tournament, but you know, 2 rounds on each course is still good.
All right, Worlds kicks off in less than 3 weeks, 20 days, 3 weeks from yesterday. What do you need to do personally in your game to get ready for that in 3 weeks?
I think, you know, I had an interview with Ulti World earlier today, and that was the first question I was asked about Worlds so far this year. So that was kind of refreshing, and a huge contrast from last year, where I very vocally made it like my #1 and only mission. So it's feeling refreshing to kind of like just go day by day and worry about the documentary today. Tomorrow I'll worry about Ledgestone, but right now I'm worried about the documentary, and just really just living my life day by day, and whatever happens, happens. And you know, Worlds will come here in however many days you said, 20 days or something like that. And when that day comes, I'll be ready and prepared. But as of right now, I'm my feet are on the ground here at Sunset, and that's what I'm going to go for right now.
All right, thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
And we are back. We're joined here with Ricky Wysocki. Ricky, you and I were just actually talking before this interview about standard gaps versus staggered gaps in trees, and referring to Northwood Black in that regard. Can you talk about the quality of the gaps out there and some of the shots it makes you throw?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were just talking, and yeah, staggered gaps are probably the hardest gaps to hit in disc golf, just because the way the trees are offset, it really makes you have to shape a shot. There's no cheating the gap. You have to throw what the hole is designed for, and if you don't, you're getting punished. And I think that that's the beauty of the course, is it's fair, but it's very challenging, and the rough is still rough, even though they did clean out the fringe, so to say. The edges of the fairways are a lot cleaner, but there's still a lot of rough to be had.
I heard a lot of players this week talking about actually playing the tee shots a lot more conservatively out here, despite what Paige said earlier, that the fairways are actually widened a little bit. Are you going to find yourself sticking with a similar game plan to last year, or are you going to go a little bit more aggressive or conservative?
Yeah, I think the conservative game plan is definitely not a bad idea, because you're going to run into a bogey, maybe even a double bogey if you get too aggressive. But I think you'll see a little lower scores this year, just because the rough is cleaned up, and some of the holes are a little more fair. I know the par 5 up the hill, I'm not sure the hole number, but they cleaned out that hole a lot and made it a lot more manageable off the tee and on the second shot. So some of the angles, some of the, obviously the rough's a lot more manageable, and I think that you'll see lower scores than last year. I'm excited to see.
And one last question for me. I saw recently on Instagram you are experimenting with some dry needling in your shoulder, and it sounded like an interesting experience. Can you talk us through, number one, how you're feeling with your shoulder and whatnot, and then number two, if you'll do it again?
Yeah, it's so I've had a little bit of shoulder pain, and it's just kind of maintenance stuff. It's not something that I don't think is going to keep me out. But yeah, the dry needling, they basically poke a needle into your muscle and move it around and kind of like scratch your muscle, and it like helps your muscles heal quicker. And so it was very painful, but I seem to get some relief from it. So I think I'm going to try it again. But yeah, it's definitely a little cringy, and it hurts a little bit, but it definitely helped.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks,
Good luck
Brian.
this week.
Hey, Rick.
Hey.
Did the dry needling make you want to get a tattoo?
Absolutely not. It made me not want to get it. It made me have appreciation for people that do.
Going back to Northwood Black, which seems to be a topic of discussion, is this the hardest course on tour?
Yeah, I think it's up there. I think that the gaps are just, they're challenging, and I think that, it's not about the, one certain hole. It's about every single hole being very challenging, and I think there's no hole you can really take a break on and be like, oh, cool, I get this hole. It should be an easy tee shot or an easy, upshot. Every hole is demanding, and I think that's what makes it so tough.
How does that contrast, obviously, besides the obvious, to Eureka Temp, and how do they blend together?
I think it's a great combo. I think Eureka is more of the scoring course if it's not windy, and you're going to see some hot rounds. 10, 12 unders is doable out there, whereas Northwoods Black, not so much. If you're shooting 5, 6, 7 under, that's a good round. Versus Eureka, you're gonna 10, 12 under if it's calm is a good round. So 4 or 5 stroke difference between the two as far as the hot rounds. That's a lot, and I think that just shows how the difference and the challenge between Northwoods Black and Eureka. But the wind is really what makes Eureka show the teeth and have teeth, because there's the OB and the water really come into play a lot more when the wind is up.
As a player and fan of the game, do you like seeing that 4 or 5 under mark for a score for a round?
I do. I think it's something where we don't have that in our game right now. A lot of the courses we're playing are 10, 12, 13 under. If you want to win a tournament, you got to average 10 to 12 under every round. And I think if you walk out of Northwoods and you shoot 2, 4 unders, 5 unders, that's great. I'll take that. I'll take that today. And I think that's it's a hard course to score consistently well on. And you can't say that about most courses. 5 under in Las Vegas or something is not very good, but 5 under at Northwoods Black is respectable.
All right, it was just announced probably like 5 minutes ago that the Champions Cup next year is going back to W.R. Jackson instead of moving to Toboggan. Looking back on it, what was it like competing for a major that earlier in the season at W.R. Jackson? How did it work out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a battle between me and Chris, and I think that I've won a lot of tournaments out there, and I play really well out there, and obviously Chris does as well. But I need some revenge. I was leading that tournament most of the whole way through until the last 4 or 5 holes, and so that left a sour taste in my mouth. But I'm excited to get another crack at it, and I'm excited to go back to the IDGC and compete for a major title.
All right, before that, Worlds is in 20 days. What do you need to do in your game, to get ready for that?
I think for me it's just health. If I can get my health to 100%, then that's really all that's holding me back is my body. I have the physical ability as long as my body allows me to do what I do, and I think that's something it can be a curse, but it also can be a blessing when you're healthy. So if I can be healthy, I'm going to be competing for a world title. That's for sure.
Ricky, one last question before we go. You're wearing a White Sox hat. We're in Illinois. You threw at the first pitch before Idlewild at a Reds game. You reside in Scottsdale. Can you set the record straight? Where do your baseball allegiances lie?
Yeah, that's so funny. I'm all over the map, but I'm actually a Guardians fan. Come from Cleveland, so that's my team. Everyone was asking, like, Cincinnati, you're from Ohio originally, but yeah, I'm a Guardians fan. But it was I had to take the opportunity to throw out the first pitch at the Reds game for sure, and then of course our buddy Dylan pitches for the White Sox, disc golfer. Shout out to him, and you got to root for him. He's having a great season, and got to support the disc golfers in other sports.
Is it safe to say baseball is your favorite sport outside disc golf?
I think football is there to watch at least, but to play baseball, yes, for sure. But to watch, I think football it takes it, and yeah. But I'm not a football player. I'm just a football watcher.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we're here with Calvin Heimburg. Calvin, you've had 2 weeks to look at the footage and think about it. How did you get that disc to skip like that on hole 13 at D-Glow?
Magic. I don't know. I got lucky.
Just what have the past 2 weeks been like for you since taking down that win?
Pretty slow. I slowly worked my way out here and then got some extra practice rounds in for this week. So I didn't have to work too hard this week and get a ton of practice rounds in 3 days. So just slowly getting practice for this event at these 2 courses, Eureka and Northwood.
All right, do you believe in momentum?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it always has a factor. I mean, if you see yourself playing well, you know, it's easier to kind of carry through and continue that. You know, it's easy to, once you have the feeling of, you know, what it takes to play well, it's easier to keep it and then keep pushing with it.
I mean, how do you feel overall about your game right now? Are things clicking?
Yeah, it feels pretty good. I really didn't feel great about my putting at D-Glow, but put some extra practice into that this week as well, and that's feeling a little better. But overall, I feel really good about where my game's at.
What about health-wise? You know, it's the grind of the season. You know, the fourth quarter, I think someone said. So, how are you feeling health-wise overall?
Yeah, everything's good. This part of the tour, it's going to be super hot, so it's just, you know, keep yourself hydrated and don't overexert yourself.
Hello, Calvin. A couple questions for you. You played very solid at Northwoods Black last year. You shot a couple of fantastic rounds, and I think a lot of people are kind of putting their money on you to score well out there again this year. You had a pretty solid game plan out there. It fits the way you throw very well. Are you going to attack the course a little bit more aggressively this year, or is your game plan pretty much the same?
The game plan's pretty much the same. The course as a whole is almost the same. It's actually gotten a little easier. I can think of 3 holes in particular they made easier. They made 6 easier by clearing out the corner on the second shot, and then they took a couple small trees out on 13 and 14. They've cleared out quite a bit. There's like a first cut of rough where there wasn't last year. So all the lines are basically the same. I think you can be a little more aggressive on 14, and then 13 is still the same shot. It's just you don't have 2 tiny trees to miss. But same game plan. Just try to keep it in the fairway, scramble when you have to, and then make your putts.
So with the course getting easier, would you say that you kind of enjoy playing the course more, or is it about the same as last year?
Yeah, I mean, it's about the same. I mean, I'm still out there pretty much throwing the exact same shots. I just think there's a little less punishment and a little more room for error on a couple of holes. So I definitely enjoy the course. It's one of my favorites on the tour. And yeah, I'm looking forward to playing out there.
And one last overall general question about your decision-making out on the disc golf course as a whole. You're kind of known for pulling out a 7-speed on holes when a lot of players are not doing something like that. At what point do you feel like you like throwing a faster disc, like a 12-speed or a 10-speed?
Yeah, a lot of it's going to depend on, you know, like it can be the same exact hole and it'll depend on what the wind is, or, you know, you can have 2 holes that are 420 feet, but, you know, depending on ceiling, I don't know. A lot of it's just how the hole shapes up. I definitely feel more confident pulling out my fairways than any other disc in my bag. So if I can use that, I will, but, you know, it gets a little windier. You want something a little more overstable. Typically, I'll pull out the distance driver.
And then the last question, I've heard a lot of people wondering online, what's the longest measured distance, or to your knowledge, that you can throw an eagle?
An eagle? I don't know. Probably somewhere around 450 is probably where it's at on level ground, I would say, with any kind of accuracy. But it's possible to probably push one a little farther. But I would say, like, typically on a disc golf course, I'll throw it anywhere from like 350 to like 415, and then I don't know, but sometimes I stretch it a little farther, but that's typically the range I'll use them on.
Great. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
All right, we're back with Natalie Ryan. Natalie, it's been 2 weeks since you took down your first Elite Series. What have these past 2 weeks been like? I've seen you on just about every podcast imaginable. What's been the feedback? Positive, negative, everything.
The last couple weeks have been really, really hectic. I've been, getting requests left and right for podcasts, as you mentioned. But I've been just trying to do my best to kind of keep a level head, try and not get too excited about it. But the response to it's been pretty good, surprisingly. I expected it to be a lot worse than it was, which is always a pleasant surprise.
You went down to Missouri last week. Was it hard to focus on disc golf, or what went sideways? I guess a little bit last week.
It was definitely hard to focus last week. My head was still at Deglo, honestly. Going through all those interviews after the round and during my practice days made it pretty hard to actually kind of focus on actually practicing. So, other than that, the course was also very tough, and the conditions were super hot. So, it was more of a relaxation kind of, let's just play this tournament, see how it goes kind of week for me. So,
yeah, how many bends you got to be on and focused, 100% of the time at a course like that. So, your first trip to Ledgestone, I believe?
Yes, correct.
So, first impression, this has become a premier stop on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. People look forward to it. What do you think of these two courses that you're about to attack?
I honestly love them. I played Northwoods this morning, yesterday as well. But after my round yesterday, I was a little frustrated with it. But the second round through, it was fantastic. And Sunset's just one of the best courses I think we've touched this year.
Hello there. A couple questions for you. I'm going to just have you piggyback off of what you just said. What about Sunset as a course is so good? I've actually heard numerous FPO players say the exact same thing.
The OB is fair. It doesn't feel like you can throw and miss your line by a couple feet and go out of bounds. You can miss it by a little bit and still be very much in play for a birdie. There are not very many courses out there this year that are like that. The gaps as well. Also, when you step up to a tee shot, you can choose 3 or 4 different lines to get there if you'd like to. Yeah. Which I think plays to FPO's strengths.
I think there's a lot of people who are very jaded towards golf courses, playing on traditional golf courses in general. What do you think this place does really well that a lot of other golf courses don't seem to do well?
It doesn't really play on the fairways of the golf courses. It's mostly on the fringe and the side. I think that's what needs to kind of happen. You need to play in and out of the woods and around a lot of the greens. And I think most golf courses just try to big bomb approach to a green or something like that. And I don't feel like that's the way it needs to be done. Kind of playing across an OB sidewalk here and there, stuff like that.
Okay. And then we got to say it, the Squid is coming out.
Yes.
Neptune Disc Squid. This has been talked about for a long time. How are you liking the disc? And feel free to sell the flight of it or how it feels to the people right now.
So the Squid might be my favorite driver right now, hands down. It's got a very understable flight for me, but for most people I think it's going to go very, very straight. I can hit it on 45, 30 degree hyzers, have it pop up, drift to the right, and then fade out at the end, and just max distance shot. I'm going to be using it all over the place on Sunset and definitely Northwoods as well. There are so many tee shots where you just need to get huge distance and go really straight, and that disc is perfect for it.
Now, it's been given flight numbers, and I know sometimes flight numbers are as accurate as they can be.
Yes.
But I love to hear it from the players. What would you personally give the flight numbers of the Squid?
So it depends on where you're throwing it. Back in Virginia, the flight numbers are perfectly accurate. But last week they were a little bit loose. The humidity and the atmospheric conditions and the heat, depending on where you're at, it messes with them a little bit. When we were at Deglo, it was probably like an 11.5, -3.2. But here, it's exactly as it's advertised. It just depends on where you're at.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a fantastic disc. I have one last question for you. You said that, surprisingly, you like Northwoods. Talk to me about why you like this course. I know everyone talks about your distance and how you've worked your butt off to get to get your distance where it is now. What about the shot shaping out there at Northwoods that you like?
Honestly, I like how difficult it is. The first round I went through it, I kind of felt that a lot of the lines were a bit unfair. And going through it today, I kind of reevaluated my shot shapes, played more for par, and found myself shooting for birdie a lot more often despite that. There's just something that kind of clicked into place for me today. I can't quite put a finger on it.
Cool. Well, fantastic, and good luck this week.
Thank you.
All right, we are back with Missy Gannon. Missy, how's it going today?
Going great. Yeah, I took a little bit of a rest day, so I'm feeling good.
Nice. Let's just start there. How important is it to incorporate a day of doing nothing into your week?
Really important, and I've kind of taken this year to really, enjoy those times off. So I actually got here last week, started practicing last week, and that gave me the ability to take a couple of rest days in between, playing 2 different courses, one that's very long in Northwood Black, and it's just been nice to take some breaks.
Is it a physical thing? Is it a mental thing? Is it a both thing?
Both. I'm fortunate that I've been, stayed pretty healthy throughout the season, so, hearing about other people dealing with injuries has really, made me take a step back and decide to take breaks and just be sort of proactive in that sense.
What are some of those things that you do to be proactive, to avoid injuries? Stretching, working out, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, even just straight up rest, doing nothing, or walking with my dogs, or just random little things to kind of get off the course, stop thinking about disc golf for a little bit, and of course stretching is always a big deal. Just rest.
Enough about rest. Let's talk about Ledgestone. What makes this a premier event year in and year out that people look forward to coming to? Obviously the discraft element, but beyond that.
Yeah, I think this is my 5th year coming to Ledgestone. So I don't know. I think it's just the overall atmosphere. I think it's the contrast between the courses, both for FPO and MPO. Being able to see both sides of the game, seeing our ability to kind of play in the open and manage OB, and then play in the woods and manage scrambling and all that. So the atmosphere is always great. Ledgestone always puts on a really good event, so I always look forward to coming here.
What are some things you're working on in your game right now on these practice days or off days?
Everything really, but again, it's sort of switching that mentality between the 2 courses that I think is the biggest challenge. You're coming from the woods, these tight narrow fairways, and then all of a sudden you're at Sunset and it's wide open, and you got to manage the wind a little bit more. So just staying in it mentally and being able to make those switches.
All right, the World Championships are in 20 days. I know you got 2 more tournaments before that, but
Sure.
Is that in the back of your mind?
A little bit, but I like to focus on the event that I'm at and focus all of my attention and energy there, and then when we get to Emporia, I'll be all about Worlds.
Hello, Missy.
Hi, Brian.
A couple questions for you. First and foremost, we got to ask how the dogs are doing. How's Pippi and Rio?
Oh, they're awesome. They're living their best life. Tour dogs are living the life, and there's so many of them on tour now, so it's really cool to have that little tour family and then tour dog family.
Well, I have to ask, because again, this is a question that I hear from non-touring people all the time. What is it like raising dogs on the road full time?
It's a lot, and I've had Pippi for I think she's 10, so I've had her for 10 years, and before tour life happened. But Rio is pretty much a tour dog. He came out on tour while we picked him up a couple of years ago, and it's hard, but having Tom on the road with me, it makes it a lot easier to manage, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
I have to kind of piggyback off of something that he asked you, talking about, week to week, is it, easy to set your sights ahead on a certain event? And you said, when we get there, we'll get there.
Yeah.
You're kind of considered a tour veteran almost at this point. You're kind of a mainstay out here on the road. How has it been managing your own expectations now that you are more experienced and you've had the success and you have the contract and whatnot?
It's been difficult, I'm not going to lie, but at the same time, I kind of know what it feels like to not do disc golf full time. I know what the 9 to 5 is like, and I don't want to do that anymore. So I just have to manage my expectations, but also, just remember that I'm doing something that's so awesome and it's growing so quickly, and it's just something really cool to be a part of, be a part of that growth and to, feel like I have a hand in it somehow. So just staying grateful and staying humble is kind of how I manage those expectations.
You played fantastic at this tournament last year. You got second place to Paige, who just played out of her mind. But you shot pretty solid at Northwoods. When you come back here a year later, do you feel like your game has evolved and you're going to be ready to shoot even hotter than you did last year?
I think so. I've felt so good after all of my practice rounds. And I think I've played 5 practice rounds, 2 here at Sunset and 3 over at Northwood. So I'm definitely prepared. I know exactly what I'm going to do on every hole. And I'm just going to manage my expectations. I can only really plan for the tee shot and then take whatever I get from there. So especially at Northwoods. But I feel good. I love the woods. I even really just love Sunset. This is so familiar to me. It's never changed really from the first year I played it. So I'm excited.
Well, fantastic. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
All right, we're back with Andrew Marwede. Andrew, this stat came up again from a couple weeks ago at D-Glow. 42 of 42 in C1X and 12 of 19 in Circle 2. How do you do that?
Well, putting's always been kind of my strong suit, and it was relatively, pretty calm conditions out there. For being at Toboggan, it's usually a pretty ripping wind, so with me being a push putter, when winds are low, I kind of have pretty high confidence, so just put 2 and 2 together, and everything kind of worked out for me that week.
Nice. I don't know if it'll work out quite like that for the rest of us, but just an incredible stat.
Thank you.
And a good tournament, good finish. So I guess, how does that kind of propel you into this week? How are you feeling right now with your game? Finished 4th here a year ago. Feel like you're kind of turning a corner this season?
Yeah, I'm always super excited for Ledgestone. I feel like I play very well here, especially at Northwoods. It's more of my, game plan, game style. Same thing with that comes into, low winds at Northwoods, a bunch of trees, so it helps with my hyzer flip forehand, and then, push putt into the trees. And then with Lake Eureka, it's a little more difficult of a course. I've had success at this course in the past, but I've also, taken quadruple bogeys here, so it's kind of one of those scenarios where if I keep it in bounds and make my putts, it should be a pretty good weekend.
Do you remember your first impression of Northwoods a year ago when it was brand new, or that version of Northwoods a year ago when it was brand new, just cut in? What went through your minds?
The first time I played, it was already probably in my top 5, top 3 favorite courses on tour. It's kind of one of those courses where, you can shoot over par and it's still well over 1,000, and, for me, getting birdies on these harder Pro Tour courses, is hard. So when I can go to a course and shoot relatively close to even and it'd be a really good round, that kind of helps my progress in the standings.
Do you like that style of golf overall, just for the sport, where even 1 down, 2 down is really good?
Not necessarily. For wooded courses, yes, but from your statement that most courses on tour are, fairly open, and then with what you said being true, they probably just make every hole super long, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. So in the woods, though, for sure.
All right, here's Brian.
Thank you.
I actually have a question about your putt as well, because I've played with you and you've boggled my mind at how high some of your push putts actually get. Now, other push putters that I know, like Matt Bell, have very specific little formulas they calculate before they approach each putt, because you're not directly sending the disc to the basket. Do you do any, mental geometry in your head when you line up a putt like that, or is it just feel at this point?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say mostly it's feel. I've kind of swayed off the loft putt for the most part. It still comes out from time to time, depending on situational slopes and all that kind of stuff. But I've been trying to have more of it's still a pretty slow putt. It's a little lofty, and but a little faster of a putt, more flat, not as nose down as in years past. But every once in a while, I'll still pull out a nice, 12, 15 foot high loft putt, and it might go in, it might not. But at least I know it's not going to go far past the basket.
Thank you for that insight. I actually had been thinking that for a long time. So next, I want to talk about your sidearm. So obviously, sidearm benefits you very greatly out here at Northwoods, especially a hyzer flip sidearm that you can move right to left, which you're obviously very good at. There's been a lot of talk this year, players kind of concerned about durability when it comes to throwing a lot of sidearm, and you are mainly a sidearm player. I think it's one of your biggest strengths. How is the durability of your arm right now, and is there any precautionary measures that you take to protect your elbow and shoulder?
The biggest part is warming up and stretching. That's pretty much all you can do. For my game plan, unfortunately, I do have to stick to my sidearm if I want to compete at a top level. I do believe I've been throwing more backhands than ever this year on tour, so it's getting better, but it's still very subpar, comparative to the top 30 players in the world. So I do trust my backhand more, but with the tournament on the line, you're in round 4, I'm going to throw a forehand for sure. So it's just always been my game plan.
We just saw right before you stepped up to the booth here, a fan came up and gave you a custom cookie mini.
Yes, I'll pull it out.
If you want to show the fans.
Yeah, got a nice little cookie mini here. This one's not edible though, so don't recommend. But
well, with that said, I have to ask you, what brand are we going with this week? What flavor are we going with? I heard there's a lot of requests for Snickerdoodle.
If I do it, I guarantee it will be chocolate chip. I don't want to name any brands, still waiting for that, chocolate chip cookie brand to hit me up, but it'll be chocolate chip. Other than that, it'll be a surprise.
Well, I will say to anyone watching that lives in the Peoria area, please send Andrew some requests or maybe some recommendations for some local bakeries in the area.
I would appreciate that.
Well, good luck this week, Andrew.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, we're back with Nate Heinold, the TD of the Ledgestone Open. Nate, the 12th Ledgestone. Is that hard to wrap your head around?
Yeah, it's 12 and it's grown from 105 to 2,200. So that's the hard part to wrap my head around, actually.
All right, I think did some math just over the past month, 5 weeks or so. Close to 3,500 disc golfers have come to Peoria and the surrounding area. Did you know that number was that big?
I do now, so.
Just that's an incredible feat. How do you get these communities to buy into events of this scale and working together from where we are now to Eureka to Washington to Peoria?
I mean, it's taken years to get to the point where they see the value of these players don't just come here for the event, they come here to practice and they spend money and they turn it into a vacation. We have people that are AMs from other countries, that's a newer thing for us. We haven't really seen that yet. We have spectators from other countries. That's new for Ledgestone as well. And so they see that data and say, we're all in, basically.
What do you want those people to go home feeling like they witnessed or experienced this week?
I mean, we have, obviously, in my opinion, we have a lot of great events for them to enjoy, but we want them to go home and say those courses were some of the best in the world. Like, we want to come back and play Northwood Black, and we want to come here and play Sunset Hills. We want to play Kennel Lake, That's what we want them to do, is enjoy the competition first and foremost.
Right. Jumping to the Elite Series side of it, Northwood Black debuted last year, and as they said, it's the hardest course on the planet. How has that course evolved, from a year ago to where it is right now?
Yeah, if you go out there and when you watch the coverage here, you're going to see grass fairways, lush grass fairways in some holes, and we've tweaked some of the par fives that had kind of really tight pinch points, and we've cleaned up the rough. So it's still going to play the hardest course in the world, but I doubt you'll see any players saying it was unfair.
A good mix, and the players have talked about that all day, where the women are playing Sunset Hills and men are playing Eureka Temp, and then they both get a dose of Northwood Black. I mean, as a TD, what is that mix like, and how does that make this event what it is?
I mean, if you look at the World Championships, and basically from 2019 and on, it's been an open course and a wooded course between Smugs and Peoria and Utah, and that's really what I love about Ledgestone is you're not going to just be good at throwing on a golf course or an open course or a wooded course. You have to master both concepts of disc golf, in my opinion.
All right, jump into a couple of PDGA things. Just announced probably an hour ago that Champions Cup, which you will serve as the tournament director for, is moving back to W.R. Jackson at the IDGC next year. What does that move mean, just as the PDGA and as a major overall?
Yeah, when I first pitched that concept of that event 5 years ago, the idea was to try to have it at one consistent location, and we obviously didn't know how it would work, having it at Jackson this year, but the response was overwhelmingly positive, and so I talked with the PDGA and we decided that it made a lot of sense to try to recreate a major in one location, at least for the time being. And so very excited I love Jackson. I'm very excited to kind of put that second edition right back where it started.
Nice. All right. We just had elections wrapped up. We talked about it till we were blue in the face at D-Glow. But what's the process now with those new board members coming in? How do they transition to taking their seat?
Yep, their first meeting will be the first Tuesday, I believe, of September, and they'll have a lot of onboarding, documents to read, and it will take, it usually takes 6 months for a new board member to really feel like they can be part of the process. So I know Conrad has been a board member many years ago. Laura is an incumbent, so she won't have any problem, but I don't expect it to be a problem.
All right, and last thing, just kind of explain to the viewers the disciplinary process from C tiers through majors. How does that work?
I mean, obviously we have a process where, tournament directors or officials for an event can submit a complaint, and we have a volunteer committee that investigates that. They look at the evidence and they submit a recommendation to the board, and so that's kind of how the process works for C tiers up to Elite Series events, and we give the player the right to appeal, and so that's kind of how that process plays out.
Thank you, Nate.
Yeah.
Hi, Nate.
Ryan.
Ryan Aquino, Disc Golf Digest and Disc Golf Network. I'm trying to make a video piece that spotlights the relationship between St. Jude and Ledgestone. So can you tell me a little bit about the mission and goal of Ledgestone as an organization and being such a strong supporter of St. Jude and how it aligns with their mission?
Yeah, I mean, St. Jude, they always say that their goal is to make sure that parents don't pay a dime when they have to travel to a St. Jude affiliate center. No travel expenses, no food expenses, and I've always said that when you have kids with cancer, like I'm not sure there's a better initiative to get behind, to be honest. And so we have one of the largest facilities right here in Peoria, and so really that's very near to my heart to work with St. Jude.
Awesome. And you're well renowned in your fundraising efforts for St. Jude, donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to them. Can you talk about some of the challenges in doing that?
Yeah, I mean, we have to start over every year, right? We have to raise that money. We have to do the fundraiser discs and the raffle, and get the players to do events that help us raise money. And so it starts over every year. We don't get to build on any bank for it. We have to go from 0 to 150 or 200,000 every year. But we have a lot of processes that have worked, and we work with Paul Macbeth a lot, and he's helped us to do some pretty cool fundraiser discs that raise a lot of money. And so I have to thank Discraft and Paul and even Paige for kind of letting us steal their molds. So
that's awesome. Last question. In a perfect world, with your continued partnership with St. Jude, how would you like to go in the future with them?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to, once COVID gets past, to try to get disc golfers to actually visit the research facility in the hospital here in Peoria and interact with patients and bring disc golf into the St. Jude facility here. We wanted to do that a few years ago, and COVID hit, and obviously cancer patients have compromised immune systems, so we can't really just let anybody come into the hospital right now. But once this passes, I would love to do that.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nate, we're running. Just one question for you. We're not going to say what this was for, but you somehow found some time this morning to get out and throw some discs. And what I witnessed was subpar. Wow. Do you get out these days? Do you get out to play disc golf these days?
Wow. Sunday afternoon was the first time I threw a disc in 2 months, and I did outdrive Chris Dickerson by like 70 feet on hole 14 past the ditch, shot a 994 rated round. So this morning was not indicative of my usual skills. So,
Well, we'll have to give you the benefit of the doubt there. So good luck this week.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Nate. We'll be right back. All right, we are back with Ohn Scoggins, and Ohn, we got to start. Happy birthday!
Thank you so much. Happy birthday to me.
Yeah, we'll save you us singing to you, but again, happy birthday! Good to see you back in Peoria after about a month ago. Took down a world championship here. So, what's it like being back in the area?
Just like go back to your own house again. You know, nothing changed much, and it's just different feeling because this time it's all about like, you know, APO, and this lady is just so challenging. It's of course it's different feeling, but it's like I said, same house but different company.
Yeah. You talk about how it's so challenging. Every week we talk about, Ohn just finished on the podium again. I think we're up to 9 podium finishes for you this year. How can you reflect on that and keeping up with that challenge?
Man, these ladies make me have a hard time every time. You know, like this lady is so good, and they just like, you know, they just like push me in my limit. Because if I'm not practice hard enough, if I'm just like so lazy, I'm gonna be far behind. So that's why this lady keep me in like situations just like, hey, Ohn, practice hard. I practice 2 rounds every day. 2 rounds every day, doesn't matter how tired I am, I have to drag myself because if I feel like if I just practice 1 round, I feel like that is not enough because they're so good. So I practice 2 rounds. After that, I have to go putting another hour. I'm like, man, this lady needs to give me like, come on, give me a break, lady. They're so good right here. God. So.
Well, looking at your season, it looks like you need to give them a little bit of a break too.
I hope so.
So you didn't play either of these 2 courses a month ago at Masters World. So this is a whole, like, not new, but having to relearn Sunset Hills and Northwood Black. So what's practice been like?
So Sunset I play before. So yesterday I played 2 rounds. But the North Blackwood, that's my first time practice. Oh my God. I hate the tree all the time. Excuse me, tree. But by the way, I feel like it's very tough. It's very tough course, and if I hit the tree, the lady out there is gonna hit the tree too. So it's a fair game, by the way. But I just wanna let it out there, like this Northwood Black course is so hard. It's so hard, and most of the time I practice, I shot over. Just only this morning I shot -2. I was like, holy God. Ohn Scoggins shot 2 under in the Blackwood. I'm like, let's go, you. But anyway, that is not gonna happen. But anyways, it's a very hard course to play. Yeah.
We're looking forward to see you take on the challenge this weekend. Happy birthday again. Here's Brian.
Thank you so much. What's up, Brian?
Hello, Ohn. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Well, first off, sounds like you've had a great day so far. Any more plans for your birthday today?
You know what? After this one, I'm gonna go see my man, and he said he's gonna take me to dinner. Ooh. And maybe have some drink at the brewery. I'm a very cheap. I'm a cheap wife. I'm not requires anything like expensive anything. Just like take me for dinner and just take me to the place I want to eat. That's it.
Well, fantastic.
Lucky him.
Well, I think that's a great plan. I mean, you have a big tournament coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
I still want to, before we talk about this week, I want to give a huge shout out to your performance at the D-Glow. You always say that your max distance is maybe 330 when you're feeling it, and that's a really long course. You know, that's an incredible performance to almost take down that event. You know, amongst all these women you're highly praising. Was that one of the toughest courses to play on for you?
No. I feel like you know what I'm saying. Otherwise, it's a tough course to play for me. Dynamic disc course is a tough for me. And D-Glow was Great Lake Open was okay for me because I just feel like if you play smart, if you make plan where you want to land, and then so for the next up shot, I think you should be okay with with the whatever you perform. So I just feel like I practice. By the way, I have like 2 day practice, and I feel like I practice hard enough, and I make my plan. Hey, this hole I want to land right here, and then good for my upshot here. That's why I feel like even you're not throwing far, if you're smart enough to know what you're doing, so you can make it up there. But by the way, but the court is challenging enough. Sometimes when you're throwing far, but if you not hit the line, you can OB very easily. So that's why that court you have to be smart play. So yeah.
Well, going into this week, do you feel like playing smart is enough for you to get the win out here?
Again, yes.
Yeah.
Again, big time for me, because especially even Sunset course, I practice with the big arm girl today, and I feel like I can get the same score as them. That's why even Sunset course, if you know how to land where you want to be and then play smart, I think you can get score the same as the big arm throw. But the black wood course, the black one, that's gonna be the score different. That one you need to hit the gap. Doesn't matter short throw, long throw. If you're not hit the gap, you'll be like looking for like 4 or 5. So yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, happy birthday yet again. Enjoy the rest of your night, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And we are back, and we're joined here by Alden Harris, the recent Mid-America Open champion. Alden, we're here at Sunset Hills Golf Course. Tournament starts tomorrow. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Yeah, the confidence definitely gave me a lot of, the win gave me a lot of confidence. So yeah, looking forward to this week.
Yeah, I want to go back to last week. Something that I noticed, actually, just from a gameplay standpoint, when I first started playing with you, when you first came on the road, I noticed how smooth of a thrower you were and how much finesse that you had. and I watched you doing commentary at the Mid-America Open on Sunday, and I noticed that your swing in general, just your backhand in general, has tightened up and gotten even cleaner than it was when I first saw you play. Are you intentionally working on your form as you're playing, or is this just a natural progression of your skill?
I think it may just be a natural progression. I can't really remember the last time I've really gone out and focused on something on my form, at least during the season. But yeah, I think it's just, I don't know, maybe all the repetition, throwing all day, every day.
Of course. And you also, I had to bring this to light again, you played some of the most creative disc golf I've ever seen. And a question that I thought of on Sunday night after we interviewed for the win at Mid-America, do you have discs in your bag that are specifically, besides the 120 F7, do you have other discs in your bag that are specifically there for rollers and trick shots?
Kinda, yeah. I definitely have some discs that I don't think anyone really else would carry. Like I have some just insanely overstable ones. I think I have like 4 rollers in my bag.
Which discs?
Let's see. I have 3 F7s. One, the 120, then a 130, and then like a 170, just like a max weight, and then another D1 roller.
Okay, you're giving me a lot to work with here. What's the difference between throwing the 130 and the 120?
So let's see. Hole 14, I threw the 131. It's just, obviously, I mean, it's very flippy still, but it's not as flippy. And it's, I don't know if anyone else would be able to really tell, but I can tell pretty, yeah.
Now, is that, the confidence to throw shots like that, has that built up over time for you? Or since you started playing disc golf, have you always been that bold in your decision making?
Well, me, the Robinsons, Gannon, Gavin, we all just like to have fun at the tournament. So one of the things we do is like find a small pitch and putt course and just play with those F7s. So I've kind of gotten pretty good with them. So that's probably where it's come from.
Now I guess we can snap to this week talking about this group of players, these young, talented players that are all kind of having some fantastic success this year. What are those practice rounds like this week at Eureka and Northwoods?
Yeah, man, well these courses are just crazy. So it's so helpful to have a good set of players to practice with, just to bounce ideas off of one another, just kind of experiment with all the different plays, because these courses are crazy. So there's a lot to process for each hole, so it's really good to get everyone's perspective on it.
And then are you guys playing a lot of cash matches, competitive rounds, or are you doing a lot more knowledge sharing and game planning together?
Yeah, mainly just casual rounds, and then just thinking of different plays for each one of us.
I guess going into Northwoods, your home course is Sequoia out there in North Georgia, a nice short wooded course. You're comfortable in the woods. How do you feel about a course like Northwoods Black, where it's wooded, but it's definitely not short?
Yeah, I think just playing Harmony Bends last week is going to really help out there, because Harmony Bends, there's not many putter mid-range shots. It's mostly you're just ripping drivers through the woods, and that's a lot like Northwoods.
Well, fantastic. Good luck this week, Alden, and we'll see you out there.
Thank you.
Hey, Alden. For those that might not know, tell us your backstory in disc golf.
Well, there's not much. I started, I think, 6 years ago now, and it was, I don't know, I found the game, and then I just instantly became in love with it.
What was it about it?
I played baseball all my life, and I think the thing that I love most about disc golf is how it's individual. I just like not really having, I mean, I'm on Team Prodigy, but I like being an individual and, I don't know, not really relying on anyone else. I can kind of see my progression like on my own.
Now you've knocked at the door several times and then finally took one down. You already talked about the confidence. What does it do for the rest of the season? We got a crazy final finish to this thing this year.
Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, really all I can think of is the confidence. I don't know. Yeah.
So that could be enough.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll see you this weekend. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Yeah, of
We'll
course.
be right back.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
All right, we were back with Sarah Hokom, fresh off a win at the Mid-America Open. We were just talking about Harmony Bends. Sounded like a pretty good commercial for that course. So, yeah, what do you think of that place?
Oh, it's super fun. It's really a golfer's paradise. Lots of tight lines, and you can throw mids and putters off the tee. There's just opportunities for all the shots. So that's what I like about it.
Have you figured out a way to bottle up how you played so clean there and bring it to Northwood?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think I feel about the same, so I'm stoked on that.
Similar play, or how would you compare those two?
Northwood's birdies are a little harder to get, I think, and I think the rough is a little thicker, possibly. So I think it's a little bit more difficult track, but really similar shot shaping and tight lines. So.
Here at Ledgestone, obviously a 4-round event. We mixed in Sunset Hills as well. How do these kind of coincide, I guess, between Northwood and Sunset?
They contrast very, very well. One is very wooded and difficult birdies, and then the other, while some of the birdies are difficult, there's a lot of birdies to be had out here. But it also still takes all sorts of different shapes. So it's one of my favorite courses on a ball golf course.
Yeah, that was my next question. How does it stack up, and what are they doing well out here to coexist with a ball golf course?
I think that there's just a lot of different varieties of hole distances and hole shapes. And then there's strategic bunkers and, of course, the water hazards and pathways that make it really interesting. And, of course, with the elevation. And then there's always a little bit variable winds out here. They shift throughout the day and throughout each day. So there's always challenges there in the big wide open spaces. The birdies are accessible to, I would say, almost every hole is accessible to a large majority of the field. So I think that that's a really powerful thing where, you have access to birdies even though they're difficult to get. I have to get out my big girl discs out here a couple times, but, it still gives me access to birdies. So I think that that's really, really powerful combination.
We're entering this final stretch of the season, which has gone on and on. Seems like it's been great, but how are you feeling overall?
Yeah, really good. I've been making sure I get proper rest and picking and choosing certain events over others, and I feel really good at this point in the season, both physically and mentally.
Have you done that? Or this year the most you've ever done that as far as picking and choosing, maybe skipping one here and there?
Probably, yeah.
Was that something that you would give advice to a younger player coming up on tour to not just go? It's so easy to just go week in, week out. Is that advice you would give to a younger player?
Sure. I mean, younger players probably need a little less rest and they probably need a little more reps, so maybe not. But, I certainly think that with disc golf in the position it is and so many high-quality events to choose from, that, players should capitalize on their strengths and not necessarily play. You don't have to. You get to drop, several of each of the different tiered events. So even in the points race, you can afford to not play a few that maybe don't fit your strengths or your needs that week.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Here's Brian.
Hello, Sarah. A few
Hey, Brian.
questions for you. Your course management skills, the way you approach a disc golf course, especially on woods courses, some of the best in disc golf. Walk us through your overall game plan at Northwoods and how you try to maneuver those fairways.
Right, so most of the fairways require you landing in a certain spot, right? There's not that many that I can't get to. There are a few, but overall, if I can't get into birdie position, I'm most certainly going to throw probably a mid or a flippy fairway to land in the middle. After that, if I'm out of position, definitely not going to try to get the birdie at that point. Most likely, there'll be a lot of pitching to a spot and then throwing the next shot for par. So I think it's really important there. I mean, I just try not to kind of play outside my game. I try to keep the speed of the disc down. I'm throwing a lot of really flippy and slow fairways, both the crave and the relay out there a ton. Also, a lot of mids off the tee. Even though the shot, even though the hole is 700 feet, it starts with a mid-range, and then you throw, maybe a turnover fairway or something. So just not getting not getting greedy once you're off the fairway, not trying to do something crazy because you're going to be in a really bad spot afterwards.
You were mentioning to Hayden a little bit earlier when he was asking questions about how all these courses require all sorts of different shapes, and my curiosity for you as a sidearm dominant player that has been for so long and has had that skill set develop over time, what is your favorite shape to throw nowadays?
I think I love throwing my super flippy relay on an extreme hyzer and just watch it just stand up and just track straight and just finish straight, and you're just like, oh, that's fun.
And do you get to do that out here at all this week?
I do at Northwoods a couple times, yeah.
That helps to make things a little bit more interesting. Good luck this week, Sarah, and yeah, see you out
Thank you
there.
so much.
All right, we are back with Brian Cummings. Brian, member of the Disc Golf Hall of Fame, the Indiana Disc Golf Hall of Fame, and the Illinois Disc Golf Hall of Fame. Did I miss any?
No.
When you hear those accolades that you so well deserved, I mean, what does that mean to you looking back on a disc golf career?
It means a lot, but the fact that I'm in there, it still amazes me, but the fact that I've been able to get people to help build the sport with me makes me more happy than anything. So I can inspire a few people to play disc golf and to build the courses.
You've done just about everything in the sport, from tournament directing to designing courses to winning tournaments. What was it about disc golf that hooked you so many years ago?
I remember a friend of mine was going to Northwestern University, and the first course in Chicago was in Gilson Park up by there, and he said there's a sport called disc golf. I'm like, you're crazy. And it was an epiphany. The first time I got on the course, I threw hole one, I go, this is cool. So yeah, right then I'm like, I just thought it was a great idea.
What is it about this sport where so many people can have that same moment like you just described, where it was instant the disc is flying, I'm hooked.
Well, just the joy of throwing a Frisbee round and round like I used to, and then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, now there's a sport I can do with throwing a Frisbee. So I was immediately attracted to that.
And you look around at where we are today in the sport. How can you even put it into words, the growth that you've seen, not just in these 4 decades, but in the past 3 years?
I am totally amazed at everything I've seen that I've been around. I went to USDGC. I'm here. I went to the Worlds in Evansville. Chicago's getting a course on the lakefront. I'm getting a course on the lakefront in Northwest Indiana. So I just can't believe how many good people are putting up some great courses and running some great events. It's really good.
Yeah, you've mentioned that twice about how this is a team effort. Everyone is involved. How crucial is that when you're running a tournament to have a team that you can rely on and accomplish something together?
Well, I'll just say this for a lot of the guys that helped me over the years, and I can't name them, but, you know, here's people that have a family, a job, all kinds of responsibility. Instead of playing, they're out there helping me build courses. And that's a pretty high thing to say about people, that their heart was truly in it, and I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Brian. Here's Brian with a few more questions.
Sure.
How's it going, Brian?
Good name, Brian.
I agree, Brian. A couple questions for you.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people who have ran tournaments for a very long time all over the country, and up until recently it was a very, very thankless job to run tournaments. Still is now, but back then I've heard stories that it was even worse. Can you talk about being a tournament director and an organizer in a time when really there wasn't a lot of credit going to those people?
Well, the thing of it is, the way I look in the past is, when I started the sport, I loved it so much I thought, I'm going to have to do something because who else is going to do it? And so I really didn't have a playbook. I just kind of learned and got together with people and asked them what to do. And remember running tournaments when it's so cold that, you know, you're trying to write scores down on paper and your hands are frozen. So, yeah, I mean, you know, it's been a long process, but I tell some of these younger players, I'm like, I remember a day when there was nothing. There was just nothing. No tournaments, no anything. And now you can wake up on a Saturday morning and go, I want to go play here, I want to go play there. So that's really a cool thing.
And just a general question, did you ever think it was going to get as big as it did now?
When I first started doing it in the late 70s and early 80s, I thought it was going to explode. And it didn't. And then I just stuck with it. And now I believe it can. I think that the groundwork has been laid in so many good places, like this area, where the people I remember that started here now look at it now. It's just incredible. So I think it's going to go places. I really do.
Well, then, for any people who are just getting into disc golf that are watching this press conference right now, may be curious about starting a disc golf club or pitching a course to a local park district, what advice from your road getting to this point do you have for them?
Well, I'm a grassroots guy, and I think the shorter, fun courses draw people to the sport. I know the pros like the long 4-hour rounds, but the average person gets off work, they want to go play a round, and they want to play something that's fun and not going to kill them. So the best advice I could get to people is keep it simple, and then in your area, if you need a championship level course, make one. But if you want to get people into the sport, they got to have that thrill of throwing one under the basket and say, hey, I could do this. And I think marketing it to baby boomers or older people too, because now they're getting retired and they're like, hey, this is a fun sport. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's not going to destroy my body. And so be honest with you, I get just as big a thrill of seeing a family out playing on a course than a pro coming to my course, because I know that those people are having a good time.
Well, thank you so much, Brian, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks for having me on.